Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. When the car accident happened, I pushed my husband, Jason, out of the way with all my strength. I was the one who got hit and ended up in a vegetative state. The driver who caused the accident was Jason's old flame, the woman he had always considered the one that got away. When the crash happened, she was staring straight at Jason. In court, Jason forgave the driver on my behalf, and not long after, he turned around and pulled my oxygen tube. I died, and he showed no grief. Instead, he married the woman who killed me and quickly had a child with her. Now I've been reborn back to the day of the accident. This time I didn't push him away. In my last life, after I died, Jason knelt at my grave, sobbing uncontrollably. I foolishly thought he might have felt a shred of guilt, but what he said next crushed any illusion I had. He thanked me for getting hit by the car because it allowed his life to get back on track, and led him to meet the true love of his life. Floating above in spirit, I was filled with rage and wanted nothing more than to strangle that heartless man with my bare hands. I didn't expect that when I opened my eyes again, I'd be back on the day I was hit. Hurry up, Emily. The movie's about to start. Jason's voice snapped me out of my thoughts. For a moment, my mind went blank. But then I realized I'd come back to the day I was hit and fell into a coma. Only this time, I wasn't going to push Jason out of the way. I wanted to watch with my own eyes as my dance teacher husband got his legs crushed by the woman he could never let go of. At that moment, Jason stood across from me, backlit by the sun. His charming eyes, always filled with affection, were smiling at me. I used to believe those loving eyes meant something real. He used to tell me every day that he loved me, and I believed him, stupidly thinking his feelings were deep and true. It wasn't until the last life after my accident that I realized just how cold-blooded he really was. Once he drained every last bit of love and strength from me. He testified in court that I had recklessly crossed the street and caused the accident. As my legal family representative, he handed the court a letter of forgiveness. Even worse, he conspired with the driver, his ex-girlfriend, the one he could never forget, to pull my oxygen tube. She cried in front of him every day, claimed to be filled with remorse, wasted away in guilt, and eventually melted his heart. He married her and used my money to buy them a house. Looking back, I can't help but laugh at myself. That money came from the years when Jason's career was at rock bottom. After his beloved ex, his white moonlight, left him for a rich man overseas. I was the one who stood by him, eating plain rice and pickles with him, scraping by through hardship, until he became the dance instructor he is now. On my birthday, I bought myself a designer lipstick, and he complained it was too expensive. But now I know it wasn't about the price. It was that he thought I didn't deserve it. I'll never forget how his face darkened when he heard the price right in front of the salesgirl. He clenched his teeth and muttered, "So wasteful. Who lives like this?" Huh. How does the saying go? Without comparison, there's no hurt. And love, real love, can't be faked. If a man won't spend money on you, no excuse can hide the fact that he doesn't love you. Emily, what are you spacing out for? Hurry up. Jason's impatient voice came again. I didn't answer him. Instead, I turned and looked around. That's when I saw it. A white beetle speeding toward us. I couldn't help but smile. The woman who hit me and turned me into a vegetable, the one who left me to die, is finally here again. But this time I didn't step forward to push Jason out of the way. Emily, what are you doing? Move, Jason shouted. But before he could finish, the car slammed into him. His body flew through the air, then hit the ground. The tires rolled right over his legs. Crack. Crunch. That was the sound of bones being crushed to pieces. This time, Jason was the one who got hit. And honestly, that sound, it was beautiful. Jason, didn't you cry and thank me in our last life for returning your life to its rightful path, so you could meet the love of your life? Then let me be a good person to the end. Let me send you all the way to hell with your true love. Let's see if you still love her after she's the one who shattered your legs and left you disabled. Jason's injuries were worse than I imagined. The emergency doctor said the only way to save his life was amputation. Just like he once pulled my oxygen tube without hesitation, I signed the surgical consent form without a second thought. After signing, I even grabbed the doctor's hand, excited. Doctor, we'll go with the amputation from the thigh down. If that's not enough, go higher. Even waist level is fine. Just please save my husband. Over the past few years, Jason had become moderately well known in the traditional dance community. He had been dancing since he was a child. He had racked up countless awards, big and small. Industry insiders all spoke highly of him, predicting he was destined to become a top-tier dancer. Jason believed that, too. That's why he valued his legs more than anything else. He would even use the face masks I bought on his legs. He was a rising star in the dance world. And now, with no legs, he'd never set foot on a stage again. Just thinking about it was heartbreaking. And when I imagined the despair on Jason's face when he woke up, I couldn't help but smile. This was what he owed me. After 2 days in critical care, Jason finally woke up. The moment he opened his eyes, he didn't even realize where he was. He tried to get up, only to discover that no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't feel his legs. It wasn't until I kindly explained that his legs had been amputated to save his life that his eyes went bloodshot, and his hands began to tremble uncontrollably. I savored the look of hopelessness on his face. Then suddenly Jason blurted out, "How did I end up being the one hit by the car? I was supposed to be the husband." "What are you talking about?" I stared at him unblinking. Jason met my gaze for a second, panicked, his eyes full of confusion and avoidance. But then he quickly looked at me again, his eyes sharp. "Emily Lou, why did you suddenly stop at the intersection that day?" "Honey, it's my fault," I replied, deliberately steering the conversation back. "If I hadn't frozen up, I would have rushed over and pushed you away. Your legs wouldn't be." I let my voice trail off. Just as I expected, Jason wasn't in the mood to press further. He lowered his head and stared at the empty space beneath him, falling into a dark pit of despair. But I knew it wouldn't take long for him to accept his new reality. Time wears down resentment just like it did to me in my past life. After the amputation, Jason became moody and unpredictable. He wouldn't talk, wouldn't eat. Whenever something upset him, he'd throw whatever he could get his hands on. He refused to see anyone except me. As the picture-perfect devoted wife, of course, I took excellent care of him to show how considerate and virtuous I was. I even made his favorite dish, braised pork belly. When he saw the blisters on my hands from cooking, his eyes filled with emotion. "Emily, how did you burn yourself like that? Does it hurt?" "It's nothing," I said gently. "As long as you're eating, a few blisters don't mean a thing." Jason was deeply moved and ate a lot that day. It's not that I didn't want to kick this scumbag to the curb immediately. The problem was our marriage was tangled in too many shared interests. We co-owned a media company, and when it was founded, I was the one who invested all the capital. Every commercial gig Jason had in the beginning, I got them for him by drinking myself sick and calling in every connection I had. Those students of his, their parents were all big shots. Even his signature piece, The Southern Flight of the Peacock, was tailored for him by a retired master. I begged tirelessly to come out of retirement. After Jason gained some fame, our studio began signing artists. He moved to the background to focus on choreography while we gradually shifted into the entertainment industry. The money started rolling in. Sure, if we divorced now, I could get half the assets, but it wouldn't be enough. Jason had lost his legs. If I left him at this moment, he could spin it into a sob story and milk public sympathy. Worst case, I'd get torn apart online and never recover. I've lived once already. I'm not about to take that loss again. I was determined to get rid of this bastard. But the company, that was going to be mine. Jason spent 2 months in the hospital. It was the perfect time for me to take full control. To get what I wanted, I had to swallow my pride and play the devoted wife a while longer. Using the excuse that the company couldn't go unmanaged even for a day, I returned to work and took over as acting CEO. The artists had all been brought in under my watch originally, so they had no issue accepting my authority. But winning their loyalty completely required the right opportunity. Just as I was thinking about how to secure their support, someone showed up without an invitation. That afternoon, I was talking to Jason about the company's direction when the hospital room door was suddenly pushed open. A figure rushed in. When I saw her face, my brows instantly furrowed. It was her, Jason's ex-girlfriend, and so-called white moonlight, Violet Hayes. Violet acted like I wasn't even there. She stormed past me and threw herself into Jason's arms, burying her face in his chest. "Jason, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. Please don't sue me. I'm begging you," Violet sobbed hysterically. Jason froze for a moment. "Baby, don't cry. Stop crying already," Jason blurted out without thinking. Violet was startled, her sobs catching in her throat. She looked up, eyes brimming with tears, staring blankly at Jason. I looked at him too. Jason hurriedly let go of her, and awkwardly tried to explain to me. I said the wrong name. Of course he didn't. In our previous life, didn't he marry Violet and make her his wife? He'd just seen her, and for a moment forgotten he had been reborn. That's why he instinctively called her baby. Jason thought he had covered it up. Well, what he didn't know was I already knew he had been reborn too. He was just pretending not to remember. I didn't call him out. After all, exposing the truth now wouldn't help me get what I deserved. Through her tears, Violet sobbed again. "Jason, please don't press charges against me. I really didn't mean to do it." Jason looked confused. "What? I didn't press charges." Of course he didn't. He'd been too consumed with the pain of losing his legs to even think about the driver who hit him. But I had. While Jason was rushed to the hospital, I called the police and hired a lawyer to press charges against the driver. There's no way Violet didn't know who filed the complaint when she received the legal documents. She knew perfectly well. But instead of coming to me, she came running to Jason. That's always been her way, cutting corners. She knew Jason still couldn't forget her, and pleading to him would be far more effective than begging me. In our past life, she didn't want to pay compensation or serve time either. So she threw herself into Jason's arms and clung to his success. Now she was trying the same trick again. "I'm willing to pay the settlement if he drops the lawsuit," she said quietly. I laughed. "Miss Hayes, you're actually offering money. In that case, dropping the lawsuit is negotiable." Jason looked torn, his mouth twitching, clearly wanting to speak up for Violet. I fixed my eyes on him. Guilty, he looked away and kept his mouth shut. "How much do you want?" Violet asked in a small voice. "Not much," I said calmly. "My husband's a dancer losing his legs. How about $250,000? That's not too much, is it?" $250,000. Violet gasped, then immediately burst into tears again. "I've been living abroad all these years. I don't have any savings. Could I maybe pay in installments? I can give you $500 a month. I still have to take care of my mother. She's ill." She clearly had no intention of paying. I didn't even get angry. "Miss Hayes, at $500 a month, it'll take you 300 years to pay it off. Are you joking?" I gave her a cold look. "Either you pay it all at once or I'll see you in court." Violet met my gaze, her eyes shimmering with humiliation. When she saw I wasn't going to budge, she wobbled like she might faint at any second. Jason panicked. His heart broke the moment he saw her like that. "Emily Lou," he shouted at me. "Why are you being so harsh? Violet's family situation is already tough. You're trying to destroy her. Just drop the charges, okay? I'm not going after her." Listen to him using my full name like I'm the enemy. He still called that White Lotus Violet, but for me, it was Emily Lou. Violet thought she could pull the same sob story trick again, cry her way into Jason's arms, and dodge all consequences. It's true that Violet's parents divorced when she was young, and her disabled mother raised her alone in hardship, but she always relied on her looks to chase after rich boys. Why else would she dump Jason back then? In our past life, she clung to Jason once he became successful, finally living the life of a rich wife. No more struggling. No more playing nice with all kinds of men. There's no way she'd give that up willingly. Comfort made her paranoid. She started fearing I'd wake up and take back Jason and the company. That's when she turned on me. When she decided to end me for good, she was the one who whispered to Jason day and night. Eventually, they went together to the hospital and pulled my oxygen tube. This life, I'll make sure Violet pays. I looked at Jason and flatly refused his demand to drop the charges. She turned my husband into a fool, and now she thinks a few tears and a pity party will earn my forgiveness. Dream on, Jason. Violet saw I wasn't relenting and started crying even harder in front of Jason. Get out! Get out now! I screamed, pretending to lose control. I grabbed Violet by the arm and dragged her toward the door. Emily Lou, stop it! Jason roared, his heart aching to protect the woman he loved most. But without his legs, he couldn't get out of bed. He could only sit there helpless. Jason could only watch as I dragged Violet out of the room. Emily Lou, why are you being so rough? He shouted as the door slammed shut behind me. His face was filled with anger. You didn't used to be like this. You feel like a stranger to me now. Oh, how I wanted to explain to him exactly why I'd changed. Why the flower bloomed so red because of my money, my pain, my patience. But I kept quiet. It was just acting. Crying. Anyone could do that. I looked down stubbornly, not saying a word. Jason's eyes filled with tears. What happened to us? Who changed first? Look at what you've done since losing your legs, refusing to eat, smashing things. But the moment you found out it was Violet who hit you, you dropped it. You really can't let her go, can you? Even after she destroyed the legs you were so proud of. The moment she cried in front of you, I became the villain. Seeing me question him, Jason's tone softened. Baby, I just think after all, we did have something once. And it's not like we're short on money, right? Come on, Emily. Believe me, I only love you. The only reason Jason was still trying to coax me was because he wasn't sure of Violet's feelings yet. He was afraid she'd see him as a loser and reject him, and then he'd end up losing everything. If I hadn't lived through this before, I might have actually fallen for his pitiful act again. Luckily, fate gave me a second chance, and this time they'll both pay for what they did. After Violet left, a new message notification popped up on Jason's phone. A friend request on WeChat. I pretended not to notice, but I already knew who it was. That little white lotus, so persistent. When begging didn't work, she decided to seduce him in private. And of course, Jason didn't disappoint. Without hesitation, he accepted her request. One glance at his face, and I could tell they were already deep into conversation, but I had bigger concerns. I was focused on winning someone else's trust. He could keep Violet. The company was mine. While Jason flirted with his precious Violet, my company ran into trouble. Our top male star was suddenly exposed in a same-sex scandal. The other side came prepared, releasing both photos and videos. PR efforts were useless. The controversy snowballed, even dragging down several other artists we worked with. Always driven by profit, Jason immediately ordered the PR department to start preparing a public statement to distance ourselves from the actor Sean. But I stopped them. Emily, do you have a way to clear this up? Jason asked, puzzled. I don't, I replied calmly. But I believe in Sean. I'm going to protect him. Jason assumed I just wanted to keep our money-making lead actor from collapsing. And for a moment, he was genuinely touched. But what he didn't know was this incident was a perfect opportunity for me. A golden chance to earn the trust and loyalty of our artists. No matter how hard it got, I would protect Sean. More importantly, I knew he was innocent. I ran myself ragged, chasing down evidence to clear Sean's name. And fortunately, it wasn't for nothing. I soon got my hands on proof that the accusations were fabricated by a rival agency. Meanwhile, the scumbag and his sweetheart were making quick progress. As the ever-considerate wife, I didn't interfere at all. In fact, I worked hard to give them privacy. And when there wasn't a chance for them to be alone, I created one. I wanted their little affair to blossom fast. After all, it was key to my eventual divorce plan. 2 months passed. The court ruled Violet bore the primary responsibility for the accident. She was ordered to pay me $250,000. That night, Jason's phone practically exploded. Message after message poured in. When he didn't respond, a call came through. Honey, who's calling? Why aren't you answering? I set down my chopsticks and looked at him curiously. Jason fumbled with his phone, turning it to silent and tucking it under the table. He mumbled, just scammers. Then he quickly changed the subject. Honey, the situation with Sean got cleared up today. The team's throwing a celebration party. I might be home late, so don't wait up, okay? His eyes lit up. As I stood and turned around, I caught a glimpse of him flipping over his phone screen. Not long after I left the house, Jason had his driver take him out immediately. I looked down at the company-issued tablet and scrolled through the recent chat logs between the two of them. Just reading it made me nauseous. I opened Violet's chat window. The latest message she sent was a photo. Her wrist had a shallow cut across it. Below the image was a dramatic line. "Goodbye, my dearest Jason." Wow. Pulling the suicide card now, huh? All this for $250,000? Please. Neither of them had the guts to actually go through with it. But of course Jason would fall for it. Hook, line, and sinker. I was sure that tonight Violet would use this stunt to win him over and try to weasel her way out of paying the compensation. Since Violet was going so hard for her goal, I figured I should contribute as well, lend a hand in her quest to become Mrs. Martin. I picked up my phone and dialed the number of the private investigator I hired at a premium. "How's the situation going between Jason and Violet?" There was a noticeable pause on the other end, clearly surprised by how direct I was. Then came the answer. "They're already in bed." "Good. Make sure you get it on video." I hung up the call, chuckling. What perfect timing. Like a pillow delivered just as I was dozing off. I'd been thinking about divorce anyway. I had to hand it to this pair of pathetic lovebirds. They really knew how to gift-wrap the evidence for me. The next morning, Violet marched straight into the company to find me. When she entered my office, she carried the latest LV handbag, wore soft leather heels, and strutted in like she owned the place. She had clearly forgotten how pitiful and disheveled she looked the last time she saw me. Right now, she looked like an arrogant rooster ready to pick a fight. "Here's your $250,000, Violet said coldly, tossing a bank card onto my desk with a smug smile tugging at her lips. I picked up the card and turned it over in my hand. "One night and you made $250,000. Miss Hayes, you're worth quite a lot." What are you implying?" Violet's voice cracked, flustered. I raised my hand and slapped her hard across the face. Her head snapped to the side. "How was my husband last night?" I asked coolly. "Emily Lou, you're insane. I'm going to sue you." Violet clutched her face, glaring at me. I didn't bother arguing. Instead, I unlocked my phone and tossed it in front of her. If she wasn't blind, she could clearly see the headline on the screen. "Renowned traditional dance instructor Jason Martin allegedly cheats on wife with first love, Violet Hayes." Below it was a photo of the two of them sharing a passionate kiss. And that was the mild one. I had even juicier material. The high-priced detective I hired had done an incredible job. Each shot in crystal clear HD. I honestly suspected he'd been hiding beside their bed the whole time. Violet's wild expression was captured in perfect detail. "This is fake. It's photoshopped," Violet stammered, staring at herself half-naked in the trending search results. Her face went pale as she repeated, "It's fake. It's fake." At that moment, Jason burst into the office in his wheelchair, completely ignoring Violet's weeping figure. He rushed to my side, eyes wide with panic. "Emily, I was set up. These are edited, just trick angles. Please, you have to believe me." I slapped his hand away. "You got caught in bed and you're still trying to lie to me. The photos, I had arranged for those to be taken. The news leak, that was me too." "Emily, I smacked Jason so hard that he fell from his wheelchair. The metal frame hit his legs and he cried out in pain, gritting his teeth. "That one," I said, shaking out my wrist, "was from the blind idiot version of me. And damn, it felt good." "Jason," Violet cried out, rushing over to help him up, shooting me a venomous glare. "Emily Lou, why can't you just believe him?" The two of them just didn't know when to quit. I reached over and pressed play on my computer. A moment later, the projection screen on the wall lit up with a video. The high-definition footage showed Violet and Jason kissing madly, tearing at each other's clothes in his wheelchair, clearly unable to wait. Their faces turned ghostly white the moment the video started playing. "Turn it off. Shut it down," Violet shrieked, trying to cover the screen with her hands. "Stop playing it." "Oh, Jason, was this part of the setup, too?" I asked coldly. "Jason, come on. You don't even love her anymore." Violet said urgently. "Now's your chance to leave that crazy woman." Jason hadn't even spoken yet, but Violet couldn't wait any longer. He tried to tug her back, signaling her to be quiet, but Violet wasn't having it. She knew if she missed this window, she'd never get her chance to climb to the top. "Emily Lou, you need to know your place," Violet said coldly. "Just divorce Jason and be done with it. Take this $250,000 as your settlement and get lost." Oh, how smug she looked. 4 words flashed in my mind. A petty villain inflated with success. Violet lifted her chin high, thinking she'd won. I looked down at Jason, who had managed to climb back into his wheelchair. "What's that supposed to mean?" I asked. "Emily," Jason said quietly, "I've already wronged you enough. I can't wrong Violet too. Let's separate on good terms. Let's get divorced." Finally, Jason dropped the act. "Jason, you." I clutched my chest and stumbled backward 2 steps, tears pouring from my eyes. Anyone watching would have thought I was heartbroken beyond words. The office door hadn't been closed, and our employees had witnessed everything. The crown of cheating scumbag was firmly planted on Jason's head. As expected, the expressions of the artists standing outside had changed. What started as curiosity was now disgust, just what I needed. Jason's accident and amputation had earned him a wave of public sympathy. If I had rushed to divorce him, then the backlash would have landed on me. But now, after all the care and support I'd given him, he repaid me by cheating during our marriage. Suddenly the narrative shifted. I was the pitiful woman abandoned by a heartless man. To sell the image of my broken heart, I wiped my tears and whispered hoarsely, "Fine, I agree to the divorce. Now get out of my sight, both of you. You're the one who should leave, aren't you?" Violet snapped. "You're not his wife anymore." She glanced at Jason, signaling him with her eyes. I stared at Jason. He couldn't even meet my gaze, turning his face aside. But his tone was firm. "Emily, you don't need to come back to the company anymore." I wasn't surprised in the slightest. I gave a cold laugh. "Don't forget, I own half the company. If you love it so much, buy me out. Convert my shares to cash and wire it to me." Hearing I was leaving, Violet looked even more pleased with herself. Her grin nearly reached her ears, as if she was already celebrating my downfall. "Go ahead, smile. As the saying goes, the higher you climb, the harder you fall." I had elevated them both just for this exact moment to make their fall as brutal as possible. I was about to turn and leave when suddenly a tall and striking figure stepped out. "Emily, if you leave, I leave too. Wherever you go, I'll go." The voice belonged to Sean. After Jason's accident, the entire company had relied on Sean to stay afloat. Hearing this, Jason's expression shifted dramatically. Especially now, after surviving that blackmail scandal, Sean was more famous than ever. Jason forced a smile, trying to salvage the situation. But Sean cut him off coldly. "Sis, Emily stood by you for 3 years. We all saw the hardship she endured. After your accident, she never gave up on you. She took care of you every day, and now you're divorcing her for a woman like that, and kicking her out of the company. If that's how you treat the woman closest to you, what future is there for the rest of us?" Sean then turned to the other artists still gathered near the door. "When I was slandered, Mr. Martin thought I was finished. He wanted to terminate my contract, but sis Emily fought for me, ran around clearing my name. If they'd treat even someone like me, a founding artist, that way, what do you think he'll do to the rest of you?" His words struck home. Several of the artists who had long held doubts about Jason began to speak up. Xander, our second most popular male star, said, "I'm going with sis Emily." One of the top young actresses added, "Me too." A few others who had always been friendly with me voiced the same decision. Just like that, most of the company's major talents chose to leave with me. Jason's face turned an ugly shade of gray. He was panicking now. No one understood better than him how the company had risen to where it was. I stared at him without expression, silently scoffing. "Oh, Jason, did you really think I came back to the company over the past 2 months for nothing? I came back to win people's hearts. I came back to leave you with nothing. A bunch of ungrateful traitors." Violet yelled, livid. "If you want to leave, get out. All of you, you're old news anyway. We'll bring in some fresh talent." Violet saw so many people siding with me and couldn't hide her resentment, But Jason didn't share her confidence. He glared at her and snapped, "Shut up, Violet." Violet tried to keep playing the fragile victim, but Jason wasn't having it. Seeing the look on his face, she finally shut her mouth. Jason took a deep breath and turned to the people behind me. "Everyone, just so you know, leaving now means you'll be paying breach of contract penalties." He said it with a smile, but the threat was clear beneath the surface. The room fell into silence. Uncertainty flickered across many faces. Jason's lips curled ever so slightly, pleased with himself. He knew once money was involved, these people would hesitate. They always did. "I'll cover the penalties," I said calmly before his smugness could fully spread. The moment I spoke, the artists erupted in cheers. Jason's hand clenched into a tight fist. That time, he couldn't even force a smile. He tried to maintain the upper hand, though still pretending to care about me. "Emily, that's not just a small amount of money. I'm selling you my shares. The payout will more than cover the fees," I replied coldly. "Just make sure the rest of the money gets wired to me." With that, I turned and left, taking our company's biggest stars with me without even glancing back. Because of all the assets and interests involved, the divorce between Jason and me had to go through legal proceedings. Since he was the one who cheated, I requested emotional damages. Not only that, I also demanded the return of the $250,000 he had transferred to Violet, citing it as part of shared marital assets. In the end, I got everything I was owed. Plus, that $250,000 came back from Violet, too. The moment I stepped out of the civil affairs office, divorce certificate in hand, I couldn't help myself. I lifted it toward the ceiling light and snapped a photo, then posted it online with a caption celebrating my rebirth. I had my own media platform, and the gossip blogs were more than happy to run with the story. They dug up everything: Jason and Violet's affair, the way they kicked me out of the company, all of it. For 7 days straight, Jason and Violet were dragged across the internet. Their names trended alongside every insult imaginable. Jason's company stock tanked in response to the scandal. Billions vanished overnight. That evening, Jason called me again and again. When my phone rang for the 18th time, I finally picked up slowly and lazily. "Who is this?" "Emily Lou. You posted that on purpose, didn't you?" Jason's voice was trembling with rage, like he wanted to crawl through the phone and bite me. I swirled the wine in my glass and stared at his plummeting stock price. My tone was light. I was just celebrating my freedom from a cheating bastard. "Is that a problem?" Jason went silent for a few seconds. "Do you really have to be this cruel?" he finally asked, his voice lower. "Do our years together mean nothing to you?" I wanted to laugh. I wanted to slap him through the phone. Who cheated in both lives? Who pushed me to the edge with Violet? And now he was playing the victim and trying to talk about love. "Love," I said flatly. "Was it love when I drank myself sick to get you performance gigs? Was it love when you kicked me out of our company after you cheated?" I set down my wine glass and leaned into the phone. "Jason Martin, how dare you talk to me about love?" "Fine, Emily Lou, don't get cocky. Just wait. You'll get what's coming." The scumbag finally dropped the act. I didn't bother listening to the rest. I hung up and blocked him with a flick of my finger. A few days later, I was scheduled to sign a major commercial deal for Sean. But just as we arrived at the client's office, the deal fell apart. "I'm sorry, Miss Lou," the brand rep said awkwardly. "We've decided to sign someone else for the ad campaign." "What do you mean?" I asked, narrowing my eyes. "Didn't you tell us just yesterday that we had the deal?" Sean, who had always been hot-tempered, couldn't hold back. "Seriously, what kind of game are you playing?" I gently patted his arm to calm him down. As much as I hated it, the truth was we couldn't afford to offend the client, but the representative clearly had trouble saying what was really going on. "You lost the endorsement to someone else." That's when Jason appeared, being pushed forward in his wheelchair by none other than Violet. "Sean," Jason said, clicking his tongue. "So this is your new agency? Real impressive. Can't even keep a locked-in deal." Violet looked at me with a smug, mocking expression, her eyes full of scorn. Sean's fists clenched at his sides. I reached out and gripped his arm tighter to keep him calm. "Don't blame us," Jason said, sneering. "Blame Emily Lou. Thanks to her dragging us down, Violet and I were humiliated. Just thought we'd return the favor. Consider it a little payback. Jason shot me a smug, provocative smile. I always knew he was shameless, but this was the first time I had seen such audacity on full display. I really wanted to walk over and slap that arrogant face of his into next week, but I held back. Hitting someone is illegal, and he wasn't worth the trouble. It was just a minor contract deal. Even if he managed to steal it, there was no guarantee he could handle it. But Jason had become like a rabid dog. Every partnership I negotiated for Sean, he snatched right out from under me. Not because he had better resources, he just undercut prices, making it a textbook case of malicious competition. After 3 deals got poached in a row, Sean was so angry he nearly grabbed a knife to go after Jason. I had to calm him down and reassure him. If he wants a fight, fine. Let's settle new scores and old ones together. The weather's getting cold. About time this scumbag and his sweetheart went bankrupt. One day, I brought Sean to meet a director about a new project. Right before getting out of the car, while it was just the 2 of us, Sean finally couldn't hold it in any longer. Emily, are you really having me take this script? He'd been wrestling with it the whole ride over. I heard this script hasn't been approved by the Broadcasting Bureau, he continued. They haven't even locked in any funding, and the role, it's not exactly a great one. Sean had been in the industry long enough to have good intel. From his perspective, the project was garbage and not worth touching. He wasn't wrong. It was garbage, but no one else knew that. I smiled faintly. Sean was surprised. You still want me to take it? I only brought you here to act, I said. Act. I turned off my phone and patiently explained. I think there's a mole inside our company. Otherwise, every time I finalize a negotiation for you, Jason somehow swoops in and steals it overnight, perfectly targeting our partnerships. If Jason wants to follow my every move and steal my leads, then fine, I'll set a trap. Let him dig his own grave. Sean was smart. He quickly caught on. During the audition, he played along flawlessly, even putting on a convincing act like he was desperate for the role. As expected, when I sat down with the director to sign the contract, Jason came in and snatched it right out of my hands. Oops, looks like I ended up with another one of your deals, he said, waving the freshly signed contract in my face like it was a trophy. Violet was with him, of course. Emily Lou, she sneered. I heard your company hasn't closed a single deal lately. This project was your biggest hope, wasn't it? And now it's gone. Looks like you'll be living on scraps for the rest of the year. Poor thing, she added with a grin. And all that car exhaust in the northwest wind, it's not good for your health. I clenched my fists and stayed quiet. Violet looked like she was about to burst with joy. Jason, high on his own ego, piled on. Emily, I don't even need this project. But hey, since you worked so hard for me over the years, built the company from scratch, I'll cut you a deal. If you're willing to kneel down in front of me, I'll hand over the contract. How's that sound? Violet couldn't help but chime in. Don't act so high and mighty, Emily. Come on, kneel. One kneel for one project. Totally worth it. I smiled coldly. And you must think pretty highly of yourself, Miss Hayes. I mean, one night and you got $250,000. That's really something. Violet turned purple, completely speechless. After Jason signed the deal for that show on behalf of his artist, he focused all his attention on the project. He didn't have the energy to keep interfering with me for now. What he didn't know was I was the reason he was so obsessed with that script. I deliberately acted tipsy at work more than once, saying how promising the script looked. I even said out loud several times, if it were me, I'd bet the entire company on this one. The mole in the company passed my words on to Jason verbatim. And that idiot believed it. He poured everything into that project. Then, on the day filming wrapped, I exposed the fact that the script was based on a plagiarized novel. The original novel got pulled, and because of copyright issues, the drama adaptation couldn't be aired either. Jason lost every cent he'd invested. The company, buried in debt, declared bankruptcy. He and Violet had to sell their luxury villa and move into a filthy, broken-down apartment. That same year, I finally rooted out the mole Jason had planted in my company. Then I helped Sean land a dual male lead web drama. Back when Jason saw me accepting web drama deals, he laughed and mocked me for scraping the bottom of the barrel. But now the irony. That web drama we were supposedly settling for turned out to be a massive hit the moment it aired. Sean skyrocketed from a third-tier actor to a top-tier celebrity overnight. With Sean's popularity soaring, every project he took on began bringing opportunities for other artists from our agency. Even though we packaged our actors together with him, they all had real talent, and the directors loved working with them. Little by little, all of our artists were making waves in the industry. They booked bigger and better jobs, and I made a fortune from it all. At the end of the year, I reserved a private venue to host our celebration banquet. But as soon as I arrived at the club, I saw Violet perched on the lap of a man old enough to be her grandfather, her delicate hands wrapped shamelessly around his neck. Then, without a care in the world, she kissed him full on the lips. Wasn't she with Jason? Who the hell was this guy? Sean stared at the scene, visibly confused. Didn't she end up with Jason? Who's this now? To be honest, I hadn't paid much attention to Jason and Violet recently, but I'd still heard a few things. After Jason's bankruptcy, he kept trying to make a comeback. He borrowed heavily from loan sharks and started a new company, but every investment ended in failure. His situation got worse by the day, and now he was being harassed and threatened by debt collectors regularly. Violet, realizing he was a sinking ship, jumped over to someone else. This new man, Director Wong, their relationship was already an open secret in the industry. So this was your true love, huh, Jason? What a joke. His so-called devotion was worth less than weeds in the wind. I was just about to leave when Jason suddenly wheeled himself across the room straight toward Violet and smacked her across the face. You bitch. Violet shrieked and kicked hard at Jason's wheelchair. With a crash, he fell to the floor. You bastard. He braced his hand against the ground, trying to push himself up, but then crack. A sharp stiletto heel crushed his fingers. Jason howled in pain, curling up on the ground, looking up at her. This vicious woman he'd thrown everything away for, with disbelief and heartbreak in his eyes. I gave up my marriage for you. How could you treat me like this? Did I ask you to divorce her? She snapped. You couldn't keep it in your pants. Useless piece of trash. Violet rolled her eyes and gave him another vicious kick. Jason tried to get up again, but she kicked him so hard he slammed into the table behind him. His head hit the edge with a sickening thud, and blood gushed down his face. The commotion immediately drew everyone's attention. Jason was badly hurt. He passed out cold. Violet didn't even glance at him. Instead, she wiped her hands, disgusted from having touched him, and wrapped her arms around her sugar daddy as they headed toward the hotel across the street. If it weren't for the club manager worrying about a lawsuit, Jason might have been left to bleed on the floor. He was the one who called 911. Jason was taken away in an ambulance. And just like that, the whole scene ended in chaos. Serves him right. Sean, ever blunt, nearly clapped in applause. Serves him right? Seriously, he had a goddess like you and chose that White Lotus. Jason's second chance at life was completely wasted. He didn't rebuild his career. He lost his legs. And now his true love had run off with some old man. Tragic. But me, I was practically over the moon. I handed out red envelopes to every employee at the company to celebrate. By the time Sean dropped me off at home, it was already past 1 a.m. As I stepped out of the car, I saw Jason waiting for me under the moonlight. His head was wrapped in bandages, his lips ghostly pale. He looked like he'd come straight from the hospital. What are you doing here? I didn't speak, but Sean immediately stepped in front of me, protectively shielding me. You're not welcome here, he told Jason coldly. Jason didn't even spare Sean a glance. He stared at me, voice trembling. Emily, I was wrong. I messed up. I should have never let you go. His eyes welled up with tears. I had the perfect wife and I threw her away. I let that Violet fool me. And with that, Jason started slapping himself across the face again and again. The sound of each strike echoed through the quiet street. Sean and I exchanged a look, both of us baffled. What was Jason thinking? Now that Violet had dumped him, now he remembered how good I was to him. Sean's face darkened, and he stepped forward with a warning glare. Jason, cut the crap. You have no right to think about her anymore. Stay away from Emily. But Jason ignored him. He just kept staring at me, his eyes full of desperation and longing. I gently patted Sean's arm. Let me talk to him. Sean frowned but stepped aside reluctantly. Jason's eyes lit up instantly, like a drowning man grabbing at a lifeline. He rushed to grab my hand. Emily, I knew it. You still love me. You're the only one who ever truly cared about me. I pulled my hand away coldly. Jason froze. Don't call me that, I said. You don't deserve to use my name. My voice turned icier with every word. Jason, I know you want to explain your affair with Violet. Go ahead. Let's hear your reasons. He flinched as if my gaze had physically struck him. He reached out, wanting to touch me again. But one look from me stopped him in his tracks. It's because in our last life, he stammered. You were in a coma for 3 years after your accident. And during those 3 years, Violet was the one who stayed by my side. She helped me through my lowest point. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The man who had once sworn to love me deeply in our past life was now standing in front of me. So cold and self-righteous. I had once wanted to protect him out of the lingering bond from our former marriage, even after all the horrible things he'd done. But that ended now. Jason's voice rose with emotion. Emily, I know this sounds crazy, but I swear it's true. I was reborn. That's how I know all this. Please, you have to believe me. I raised an eyebrow and gave him a small, sharp smile. Of course I believe you. Jason froze again. You do? I leaned in ever so slightly because I was reborn too. In that moment, Jason's pupils dilated as if the ground beneath him had split open. I stood under the moonlight, watching as his face drained of all color. The Emily Lou who loved you, I said quietly, was the one you killed, the one whose oxygen tube you personally removed in the hospital? I wasn't pretending anymore. There was no point. I wanted to drive the knife in deep and clean. Jason, you're pathetic. You chose Violet in 2 lifetimes, and in both she destroyed you. You lost everything. Not even the child you thought was yours turned out to be your own. His face twisted with confusion. What? What are you talking about? What do you mean the child wasn't mine? Oh, didn't you know? I said, my voice laced with venom. Even while I was in a coma, I heard everything. Violet admitted it herself. The child wasn't yours. It was her ex-boyfriend's. As the kid got older and started to look less and less like you, she got scared. That's why she teamed up with her ex and a doctor to drug you and drown you in a fake accident. Jason stood there completely stunned. His mouth opened, but no words came out. I stepped forward just to watch his expression more closely. Then suddenly, Jason burst into hysterical laughter. Haha. Of course. That day I felt so dizzy. I knew something was wrong. That Violet, you evil, evil woman. The next morning, when I woke up from a mild hangover, Jason was gone. He'd vanished. After that, I threw myself into work. Sean confessed his feelings to me, but I could only see him as a younger brother. As for Jason, I never saw him again. 2 months later, a woman's body was discovered near a reservoir by a man out fishing. The corpse was confirmed to be Violet Hayes, the woman who had disappeared along with Jason. By the time they found her, her face had turned ghostly pale from being waterlogged. Her once beautiful features had been slashed beyond recognition. Her tongue had been cut out. It was a gruesome, brutal death. Not long after, Jason was captured by the police. In custody, he showed no remorse. He shouted to the cameras with wild laughter, "She deserved it. She ruined my life. She took everything from me. She deserved to die." He had completely lost his mind. Watching that footage, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Pity, disgust, maybe both. He lived 2 lives, and only at the very end did he finally realize who had truly loved him. But by then it was too late. Not that it mattered to me anymore. I glanced out the window at the field of sunflowers. I knew my future would be bright. It had only just begun.